In this video, I'm going to walk you through the 6 steps you need to take to close your first 100 customers as quickly as possible. This, of course, is one of the most important parts of building a successful SaaS business. In the early days, velocity is key. You want to get your product into the hands of paying customers as quickly as you can. My name is Sara Archer, and I've looked under the hood at over 2,500 SaaS businesses. Only a very small number of those businesses ever managed to hit $10 million in revenue. So what's the secret for those that do? Our data show that the fastest way to get there is by 5 or 10xing your subscriber base, which means logo acquisition is a top priority. I've also helped build and bring 4 SaaS products, selling each to thousands of customers. So I know what it takes to successfully sell SaaS. By the end of this video, you'll have a blueprint to get those first 100 customers and to get your SaaS business off the ground. The very first step to getting those 100 customers doesn't have to do anything regarding deal qualification or sales negotiation. Rather, it comes from accepting that you've got to deal with the discomfort of sales, putting yourself out there as well as your new product. You have to convince others that what you've built is worth merit and also money. You've got to get comfortable with being uncomfortable and the rejection that comes with the territory. A lot of folks think that sales skills are something you're born with, that all extroverts are good at it and talented salespeople come into the world with smooth negotiation skills. I can tell you this is wrong. Like most other things, it's a skill that can be taught and learned pretty easily. In the beginning of building your SaaS business, you're responsible for convincing prospective customers that they should trust you, and this can be overwhelming or, for some, scary. I want you to think for a moment about how often you need to convince others to change their opinion or take an action. Think about, or maybe even look at, recent texts and emails. Perhaps you needed a friend to help you move house, a family member to agree with you, a boss to listen to your new idea, or even for someone just to share your social media post. In each of these examples, you're trying to convince someone to do something. And that's a lot like sales. You likely do this by suggesting or showing something so compelling that it gets the conversation started. From there, the other person's now an active participant, and together you guys are discussing possibilities and eventually arriving at an outcome or conclusion that appeals to the both of you. By leading with something compelling or valuable, you're going to have a lot more success than if you approach every conversation with too much sales vigor. So my advice here is focus on what you have to offer. Once you've shifted your mindset, the second step here is to understand the basics of the sales and marketing that is required to help you acquire your first 100 customers. This means establishing a baseline layer of knowledge to help you make decisions and measure success. Minimally, you should define your ICP. This is your ideal customer profile. Understand who needs your product the most, who's going to get something out of it and see value at your price point. Now, your ICP definition doesn't have to be perfect. You'll improve your ICP over time. In fact, I don't think we really landed on the perfect ICP for ChartMogul until 5 years into business, but you need a baseline hypothesis on what kind of businesses you should target. ICPs can be defined by firmographics like the number of employees or geography, but also things very specific to your product. For example, right now I'm working with 2 founders that sell Gen AI. They know that if a company has a lot of internal sophistication around Gen AI, that's going to be a hard sell for them. They decided they should target businesses who have an immature understanding, but still a keen interest in Gen AI. Then they can really position themselves as experts and teach prospective customers about how this technology can help their business. Once you've got that, you need to know your buyer personas and decision makers. Within each company, who are the people that you're going to target? The advice I have here is to focus on employees that have authority and influence. Authority is typically indicated by seniority. A VP of engineering in many organizations will be able to decide without pursuing lots of approval and may even be able to exercise her own budget and signatory power. Influence, though, is about who the organization listens to. Employees with long tenure typically have more influence than recent joiners. They've been around the block and they know how things get done in business. Beware the brand new executive. Someone might look like a decision maker, but if they've just joined, they may not have proven their decision-making skills yet to the organization. On to the next thing we need, pricing. Price your offering, even if it's just a rough idea. Remember that almost all products are underpriced in early days. You just need a pricing model that's easy to explain and defend. You can do this by picking a key value driver. What is it that your customers are most excited about paying for? Is it access? Is it the number of presentations they can create or the number of credits they consume? A value driver is simply something that adds worth to the product or customer experience. Now, in sales, communication is everything. Unsurprisingly, salespeople have good communication skills, but too often the emphasis is on verbal skills and overlooks written skills. Expect to have to explain complex concepts in written form. As the saying goes, clear writing indicates clear thinking, and if your message has to pass from one person to another, the more muddled your message becomes, the harder it will be to progress your sale. So with these elements, hypotheses about your ICP, your buyers, some basic baseline pricing and strong communication skills, you're about ready to talk to customers. Now in step 3, we're going to dive into more practical things. You've shifted your mindset, you've laid down some basics, and now it's time to sell. Of course, most new businesses don't have the luxury of inbound leads or partner referrals, which means you're almost certainly going to do cold outreach. Yeah, I know. Well, look, the truth is you need meetings. Meetings are the currency with which you can generate revenue. The good news is that plenty of smart folks like to talk to passionate, credible builders, but you still need to go about it the right way. When you start, this will be very manual. I suggest that you block out hours each day to build lists and write emails to prospective customers. Put on your favorite playlist, figure out who you want to talk to within those target accounts and their contact data. Then you'll draft and send off cold messages to prospective buyers hoping for a reply. It's very tedious, but it gets easier. You'll capture the curiosity of someone who wants to know what it is you're working on. What should the content of those messages say? I always suggest that you just speak with honesty and clarity about your new offering. Write something like this: I'm building the XYZ product specifically for buyers like you, and your feedback would mean a lot to me. Strive to understand why they might care about your product. You can ask them things like, how might you imagine using this? Or do you think this would be valuable for the department or the business? Remember that generally speaking, people buy products to make money, to save money, or to be compliant. So what will your product do for them? Write emails that posit a specific hypothesis that showcase your credentials. Use simple, straightforward language and make it easy for people to say yes. Once you have a basic idea of where and how to find the people you want to talk to, you can start to automate things. I actually recently worked with 2 founders who set up some automatic campaigns. There's a lot of technology that helps with this, and these folks are actually booking as many as 15 new meetings a week. Now, their buyers are on LinkedIn, and that's not the case for everyone. Your buyers might be at trade shows, on Twitter, or in Slack communities. But it's important to understand where they hang out, what do they talk about, and how can you contribute to the conversation. The best way to do this without being overly salesy is to have something to give. It could be data, knowledge, advice on new tech. What expertise or asset can you give away to establish yourself as a credible expert worth talking to? All right, meeting booked and on to step 4. This is another moment where founders sometimes freak. Oh my, what do I do? I had a CEO call me a few years ago exactly with this scenario. They landed a meeting with Boeing and had no idea what to start. If this happens to you, don't fret, it's a good problem. Instead, work on developing 2 important sales skills: research and discovery. Great sales starts with great discovery. You need to know the business, understand the people, and adopt the buyer's perspective. This is where you're going to show you've done the work required to have a meaningful, productive conversation. It's also going to put you in a good spot to ask smart questions. Once you've done a bit of research, you can start formulating your approach. Discovery is the process of collaboration between buyers and sellers. Each party has a stake in uncovering challenges and finding solutions. If you search sales discovery online, you'll see all kinds of frameworks and methodologies. There's tons of different approaches. I suggest, however, you just focus on 3 things: need, timing, and alternatives. Need is all about what kinds of business problem does your buyer need to make progress on? Why? What is the impact of doing nothing? Timing. This is how fast does your buyer need to solve this problem? When do they need a solution in place? And when should they start in order to hit that deadline? Alternatives. If your buyer doesn't pursue this solution, what alternatives exist for them to get to the intended outcome in the appropriate time frame? Later on, you'll ask questions about authority and budget. They can help you understand how the customer makes a purchase decision and sign off on a deal. These 2 things will only happen if there's a real business need that will critically impact operations and or outcomes. I'm a firm believer that sales are made or lost through ongoing discovery. So this is really non-negotiable. You've got to get it right. I'm going to drop a link that has this discovery framework that you can repurpose and use to your liking. It's got all of the questions for each of these categories: need, timing, alternatives. It also has authority and budget questions as well, so you can use that. Sales is a performance sport, and repetition and practice is key. After your few first calls, things will get easier and conversations will flow more naturally. Now for step 5, let's look at something that most folks are not naturally gifted at: closing the deal. Odds are you're probably great at building systems and software, but I'd venture to bet you don't have very much experience with high stakes negotiations. So how do you get good at closing business? First, you need to understand that you're not just selling, you're also helping your buyer evaluate and make a confident purchase decision. It's unlikely your buyer has ever purchased something like this before, so it's your job to show them the way. Be straightforward and prescriptive. Guide the buyer with clear, actionable recommendations. They don't know what the next step is. They want to hear that from you. Give them clarity so that they can help you advance the deal. You're also going to want to anticipate and address objections proactively. Instead of avoiding pushback, invite it in. What concerns do you have about moving forward? Put yourself in the shoes of the buyer and think through those potential issues before they come up. Talk openly and try to use their responses and the additional data you uncover to refine your offer and to reassure them. Here's a cool tip. If you hang up the phone and realize you missed an opportunity to explore an objection or ask a really important question, send your champion a quick email. Hey, I meant to ask you one more thing. Do you have 5 more minutes this afternoon? I can call you direct. If you take your customer communication outside of the regular cadence of Zoom meetings, studies show that this yields higher win rates. It makes sense because when we're texting or talking to prospects on the phone, the same way we do our friends and family, there's increased trust and openness. We also want to create meaningful deadlines to advance deals. Try and work everything back from a deadline. For example, if you want to have everything in place for Q1, we need a signature by December 12th, so there's sufficient time for us to onboard you. If that's not an option, go with something simple like this promotion ends Friday at midnight, or can we earn your business by the end of the month? Sometimes it can be effective to capitalize on this fear of missing out. You can share stories of others who've hesitated and ask questions like, we only onboard 4 clients a quarter and 3 slots are taken. Should I reserve the last one for you? Another great idea is to use future-oriented language as if it's already a done deal. Outline what happens after the purchase decision. You can say things like, once we finalize this today, you'll receive your onboarding documents within an hour. Your implementation will begin on Monday and you'll work with Stephanie, who's been at the company for 6 years and is based in Toronto. It's prudent to end most calls with a scheduled follow-up. Let's book a quick check-in next week to keep the momentum alive. Additionally, you can ask trial close questions over the course of the sales cycle to gauge readiness and to confirm alignment. Does this sound like what you are looking for? If we solve for X, does that make this decision easier for you? What roadblocks do you anticipate based on what you know so far? I also like this one. We're an ambitious team and every deal counts. Do you think it's realistic we could earn your business by the end of the quarter? Sometimes folks have a hard time imagining that taking a risk will have a positive outcome. Storytelling can come in handy here. See if you can build a library of relevant case studies or successes that you can mirror when talking to new customers. Now, hey, one of our clients in your industry faced a similar problem, and after implementing our solution, they saw insert specific result here. Once you've gotten the green light to share your formal proposal, do so confidently. Present your offer, pause. Silence can feel uncomfortable, but it gives the buyer time to process. Often, they'll respond with their decision or reveal what's holding them back. If there is pushback, take time to understand the source of the concern. Very few well-qualified deals should fall apart late in the sales process. So if you encounter a late-stage objection, work with your champion to sort it out. Look, the truth is you're going to win some, you're going to lose some, probably more in the beginning, but that's just the nature of sales. Every closed deal or missed opportunity provides insights. Analyze your calls to identify what worked, what didn't, and how you can improve. Consider recording calls with permission and reviewing them. This is what sports players do all the time. You notice patterns and you see opportunities to refine your approach. Adopting these strategies will make negotiation less painful, and you're going to have an easier time closing deals and growing your SaaS to those first 100 customers. After closing your first of what is sure to be many customers, it's soon time to think about implementing scalable systems, because you as a founder are one person and you're going to have a lot more on your plate than talking to customers. So when you're no longer able to manage sales yourself, and when you can afford to, the advice here is to hire 2 salespeople. Don't go out and hire a sales lead, just 2 hungry, hardworking salespeople will do. 2 allow you to create healthy competition, and when you only have 1, it's hard to understand what constitutes great. Manage them to the best of your ability and empower them to do as much sales activity with the right tooling and data. Now, the nice thing about hiring salespeople is that they have to deliver. That's their job. The golden rule that I use is reps should be talking to at least 2 net new customers per day. This is going to help you get the meetings you need to generate the revenue required to grow the business. Sometimes CEOs and founders avoid hiring salespeople because they don't want to manage them, or they think that the product is so great it'll just sell itself. Even if you have inbound leads in a product-led motion, layering on sales will accelerate things. I was talking to the CEO of a pretty big London-based business. They get over 1,000 trials a month, but have no sales rep. I I said, what would happen if you just had a person call each and every one of those signups and say, hey, can I help you get set up? Do you think it's worth a try? Would it impact conversion? Anyway, he made the hire and is now challenging the whole business to embrace sales more wholeheartedly. There will come a time when you no longer have the knowledge, skills, or time to manage those initial sales reps. That's when it's time to bring in a sales leader. A sales leader, of course, is like a hired gun, a mercenary. You're going to give them the vision and top-line growth goals, and it's their job to deliver. They should be able to articulate their approach and what they need to succeed. That likely means bringing in the right people and tools to build out the commercial arm of your business. For example, they might add roles like an SDR or RevOps based on your go-to-market approach. It's their job to systematize processes to help you reach your growth goals. A word of caution though, adding more salespeople will, in and of itself, not solve a fundamental demand problem. If you aren't able to get meetings with potential buyers as a founder, it's hard to imagine someone more junior with less knowledge and less passion for the business is going to yield different results. And so tomorrow, if you said, Sara, I need to close 100 customers, these are the steps I would take. Step 1, get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Step 2, understand the basics of sales and marketing. Step 3, get in front of buyers with cold outbound. Step 4, get good at research and discovery. Step 5, learn how to negotiate and close the deal. Step 6, build scalable systems to reach your growth goals. Thanks so much for watching. Head on over to the linked video if you want to learn how to start a SaaS business right now from complete scratch. I'll see you over there.